Hello and welcome to our CAD clip on viewing ceiling objects in a regular floor plan. Okay, in Revit, and I'm using Revit 2013 here, I just happen to be using an architectural template with an architectural feeling here, but this could be Revit MEP or Revit structure and any really version of either one of all of the above. The tip we're about to show you. So the objective here is, normally we draw ceilings in ceiling plans. It works quite nicely. But then when we go to a floor plan, sometimes, for instance, we want to center our partition walls on that ceiling grid, and we can never see that ceiling grid other than in a ceiling plan. So here's a quick tip on getting ceiling objects to show up in a regular floor plan. I've just got some walls and stuff in here creating some space. I'm going to double click on my ceiling plan for my level 1. First thing you want to do is maybe hit your reveal elements here and make sure that the ceiling grid or ceiling objects are turned off. You can also type VV on the keyboard or VG. Make sure that ceiling objects are turned on our model tab. So that's all good. So in our ceiling plan, we're going to go up to the top and say I'm going to draw a ceiling. I'm going to pick a 2x4 acoustic tile type off of here. You can pick whatever one you want. Set your height in here off of that level. Is it room bounding so that your rooms and spaces will be bound by leaving it on automatic. I can also sketch individual line work, but I'm going to go automatic and go pick and pick. That's it. Hit escape, escape. I now have a ceiling object. I can even hover in here and tab or pick on this guy, and I can use my arrow key and nudge that, so I can move that around and it'll move my ceiling grid. I can also go in and take that object, let's rotate my point to there, and then rotate that. Same thing, I can pick over here, say rotate just for fun, rotate that a little bit like this. So now I've got a ceiling object in there. If I go to my 3D view, there's my ceiling object, shift middle mouse button, there's my ceiling under there, very good. Back, okay, back to my ceiling plan, all is good. Now for whatever reason I want to see this in my floor plan. The problem is if I go to my level 1, I don't see that. And it's not because the objects are turned off with my reveal elements or my visibility graphics. It's because what I need to do is to set an underlay of my ceiling plan and set the underlay orientation. Watch. While in my level 1, I'm going to pick in here to make this my current window. Then I'm going to go over here and set the underlay to be, you can't set the underlay to be level 1 ceiling plan. That's the tricky part. You'll go in and say, well, I can't use underlay. Well, in fact, you can, but what you have to do is it's a 2-step process. Level 1, good, and then you have to set the clincher here, underlay orientation to be, get ready for it, reflected ceiling plan. Click out, and now all of a sudden I'm going to see my reflected ceiling plan, and I can go in and edit that if I want. If I want to draw a wall, I can go in here and I can pick a wall type off of here. I can use my pick objects, or I can just start to draw. But at least now I can see that ceiling grid and I can kind of trace around it. And then if I don't want to see it, once I'm done, okay, all I have to do is turn it off with the underlay. Hit escape, escape, go in here in the view and say no underlay. All of a sudden I lose it. So there's a great tip on setting your underlay and the underlay orientation, which is the clincher. Now you can also draw lines on top of this. I could go in here and just go to my annotation tab, and I can draw detail lines on here, and I can say detail line, and I can use my pick option if I wanted to go pick for whatever reason. Escape, escape. Okay, so I can take these lines and edit them or do whatever I want with them. And now if I go back and I say, okay, take that underlay off, okay, but watch what happens. If I'm going to, let's go to my view and close all my hidden windows, and let's open up the ceiling plan and let's tile those two views. So I'm going to go tile. So I've got my reflected ceiling plan where I can see those walls, and I have my normal floor plan. Watch what happens when I go in here and I pick on this grid line and I nudge it to move it. Okay, it's going to move the ceiling grid, and these lines are not going to follow it because I didn't lock them. So that's the other thing, is you can put them on top, but if you want to have them lock, I need to go back into this view and I need to go in here and say level 1, make sure the orientation is turned on. And now when I go in here and I say annotate and I say detail line, when I go in here I want to say pick, and after I pick it I need to say lock, and then pick, lock, pick, lock, escape, escape. Maybe for, you know, and I can take this and pull this down still, it doesn't have to stay exactly there. But I can draw detail lines on top of the ceiling grid, or I can lock and align the walls to it. I didn't do that either, right? Watch, I'll do my walls as well. See how they disappear in both views? I'm going to go back here and say architecture, wall, and I'm going to say pick. And I'm going to go pick and, oh, conflict wall, that's okay. Oh, conflicts with the window. And it didn't give me my lock option. Let's try a different one. One that's not interfering with anything. And it's not giving my lock option. So maybe I do have to align and lock them manually. Okay, so let's try that. Modify, align. So I'm going to say align to, using my tab key, this, and then go back, pick the wall, and lock it. Okay, just one little simple operation. If you want to lock as you draw, what you do is you go in here and you say wall, take your chain and turn off your chain, and that way as you draw and you pick each segment, it'll give you the lock option right after. Kind of a nice little tip there for you. So you won't get the lock option necessarily when you use the pick option, but you can trace it after, or you can do your manually align and lock. So let's try it again. Go back to here and pick on my ceiling grid from the ceiling plan, and as I nudge that, look what's happening. The detail lines are moving, okay? And if I go sideways this way, they're going to move as well. So they're going to follow that ceiling. So if you align and lock line work or walls, however you do in a normal conventional method, you can then go back into here and say, okay, fair enough, I used that ceiling for everything I wanted. I laid out my walls and my detail lines, and then I turn off the ceiling underlay, and now I can again just go back into here, and if I happen to move my ceiling grid, okay, you can see this wall isn't aligned and locked to anything, so I'll delete it. But if I go back now in my ceiling plan, or someone else opens up that work set and they start to edit the ceiling objects, my walls are going to follow those. So you have to be cognizant of that. You don't want to go just carelessly realigning the ceiling grid, but there's a quick tip on using the ceiling grid in a regular floor plan using the underlay and the underlay orientation, with a little side note on some aligning and locking.